They did not close their eyes, did not dream, did not remember, and believed they were awake. But in a forgotten capsule, someone returned and knew, without knowing why, that inside there it was more real than ever. The world is awake, but walks like a sleepwalker. The lights did not go out because there was no need to sleep anymore. The cities remained lit, the avenues crowded with footsteps, the factories eternally active. The clocks lost their sense of time because time became flat, constant, eternal. It was the year 2098, and for the first time since humans looked up at the sky, no one dreamed. The next 7 had fulfilled its promise. A lucid, awake, unstoppable mind, injected at birth, released in perfect cycles every 12 hours by an internal microdevice, kept every human being in absolute wakefulness. Without rest, without disorder, without deviation, global productivity increased by 96%, workplace accidents eliminated, nighttime anxiety eradicated. The governments called it the final leap towards full consciousness. But there was a price, one that no one could put into words because words were no longer enough. At first, the rejection was mild. Some communities resisted, but they were soon absorbed by the promise of infinite time. Why sleep if you could learn another language? Why dream if you could produce? Sleep became synonymous with backwardness, and so humanity accepted its sweetest extinction, that of the unconscious. The symptoms arrived slowly. People stopped remembering meaningless images upon waking. No more impossible chases, no more flights without wings, no more embraces with the dead. Children no longer talked about monsters. Poets no longer wrote. The mad became sane. The streets gained order, their minds precision, but something invisible, something soft, fragile, absurd and sacred began to die without anyone noticing. In the gray area, south of what was Montreal, there survived a nameless shelter, an old concrete structure, without satellite signal, without official cameras. There lived the last sleepers, criminals of slowness, fanatics of their past, dangerous sentimentalists. But they did not consider themselves any of that. They were archaeologists of the soul. They kept old recordings of dreams, brainwaves captured before their necks, blurry images reconstructed in simulators, disconnected voices, cries without cause, caresses that never happened. And in the center of the refuge, assembled only on very rare occasions, was the machine. No one knew who had created it, perhaps a former neurologist, perhaps an industrial dreamer. It was shaped like a capsule with electrodes like roots and a membrane that opened like an eyelid. It only worked for exactly 6 minutes. Afterwards, it shut down for weeks. No one could enter more than once. The young woman called herself Lina. She was 19 years old and had a gaze like restrained rain. Raised in a barren neighborhood of Sector 18, she had escaped after an inexplicable crisis. One afternoon, while assembling solar panels, her hands began to tremble. She said she saw a figure among the reflections. She said she heard a song that didn't exist. She was diagnosed with sensory overload and her chemical reset was scheduled, but she escaped. It took 11 days to cross forbidden zones, abandoned drains, and electromagnetic fields that burned the skin. Upon reaching the shelter, she didn't ask for food. She only said, "I want to remember what I never lived." The machine took 7 hours to assemble. When it was ready, Lina entered. She lay down, closed her eyes. The electrodes attached to her skull. The membrane closed. And then it happened. 6 minutes. That was all the body could withstand without the necks detecting it. But inside, time was different. A vast liquid expanse, a homeland without a map. Her brainwaves showed an intensity not recorded since the year 2027. The monitor overflowed, her pulse irregular, and before her eyelids opened, tears were already flowing. When she woke up, she didn't speak. She couldn't. She fell to her knees, trembling. She hugged herself as if she had just lost someone or found them again. Her voice returned slowly, broken, faint. She only said, "There, I knew who I was." The news spread like a poorly sealed crack, a rumor without coordinates, a whisper that unsettled. There were raids. The shelter was destroyed, the machine confiscated, but they could not erase the memory because now there was an indomitable certainty. Something else exists beyond wakefulness, and humanity had killed it. In the following months, thousands began to simulate artificial dreams in clandestine networks. They recreated ancient visions, reprogrammed neural connections to fake nostalgias they never experienced. They called themselves the Orphans of the Unconscious. They were not seeking rest, they were seeking meaning. But dreaming was not just seeing images, it was disappearing a little, it was dying without dying, it was surrendering to the useless, to the impossible, to the gratuitous. Dreaming was the last nameless religion, and they had eradicated it. One day in a public school, a 6-year-old boy stood still in front of the window. He didn't respond. He didn't blink. The sensors detected no faults. When he came to, he murmured, "I was flying." They didn't know how to process it. They didn't understand what it meant. Neither did he. But something had ignited deep inside. Experts claimed they were neural residues, simple genetic echoes. But the oldest ones, those who once truly dreamed, knew the truth. Dreaming is not a function, it is an ancestral right. And even if they erase it, even if they forbid it, even if they forget it, it will return disguised as nostalgia, as art, as madness, as tenderness without reason. Because dreaming is not remembering, it is being remembered by something that does not exist. And so, in an awake world where no one sleeps, where no one closes their eyes, humanity walks like a sleepwalker. Because dreaming was not a luxury, it was the last refuge of the human.